Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for a squat day, but a quick reminder for those of you who watch these videos, please remember to click like down below. It would be greatly appreciated. All right, over to the training. For today's training max, I used a cambered bar and I worked on just sinking it as deep as I possibly could. Went up to 475. Again, I felt like I got really good depth on this. The only downside to that is that with this bar, you can't see depth at the angle I can get the camera at. Because of my rack position, I can't get the camera lower really or further down due to my glute ham raise. But that being said, it felt like good depth. And it wasn't a true max. I felt like I had more in reserve. And now that I saw that, yeah, we're good. We're below competition depth. I felt like I could have gone heavier. But that's okay. It was a good training max. I felt it was at least 90%. Because I don't think that I could have done more than 500, low 500 at best with that. All right, so then we went right over into all the hypertrophy work. And I didn't do any serious hamstring work besides reverse hypers today because my hamstrings were cramping yesterday. If you guys watched the vlog on benching, I was struggling with benching yesterday because of my hamstring cramping. And I didn't want to exacerbate that today, so I stuck with just reverse hypers, which do, by the way, work the hamstrings. They're just not a hardcore hamstring exercise. They're not like a Romanian deadlift or the glute ham raise or good morning or anything. So I decided to just focus on good pump work after that max. Took short breaks. And as you guys saw on the belt squat, I'm not holding onto the handles. Yes, I had to reduce the weight further, but keeping in mind, those handles are on a lot of these devices because, quite frankly, the whole setup is too heavy for most people to squat. I feel like that empty bar on that, because they say it weighs 155 pounds. Anyone who's done belt squats knows that, yeah, if you're a 200-pound squatter, you're not gonna belt squat that. Okay, not gonna happen. So the issue there is, I think that's one of the reasons they do the handles. They're a little hard to miss. It's one thing I don't like about this design, and I think eventually, long term, especially when I get a bigger place, which will be in the works. I do want to get a bigger place. I want a bigger house and with more space and maybe a separate building for my gym, like a metal building or something. And that might be coming in the next couple of years. So it's been a space issue, but I really do want to upgrade to a different belt squat, one that doesn't have the handles in the way, because they're actually hard to miss. But I felt like I got really good activation with a lighter weight. So it's now I just ran 90 pounds, like 145 on each side. But again, given the weight of this system. But keeping in mind, how does that compare to when I used to do these before I had a belt squat? I used to do them up on with a chain and a belt squat belt with plates hanging between my legs, and used to get on a pair of plyo boxes, which is dangerous when it gets heavy. So I can kind of compare that and have an idea of where I'm at in terms of strength on these. And I notice it feels very different because I can't cheat. I can't pull up on the handles. And that's the problem. It gets harder to track progression, and it gets harder to maintain a true squat pattern because you can change the angles quite a bit by doing that. Okay, so I feel like that's the case. And I've thought about this before, and one of my clients who came back, who I coached him about 6 months out of the year, he's been doing it the other way too. And he brought that up, that he feels the same way when we were discussing in a video call. So I'm like, yeah, I've been thinking of the same thing, and I think you're right. So I'm going to start trying to do it that way myself. But this way we have true tests of progression, because I mean, the weight is going to be the same strength curve on this any way you do it, or no matter, because we're not holding onto the handles. We can't use them to pull up. And it means that we can't pull up out of the bottom, the hardest part. That's where the most tension is. That's where our most hypertrophic potential is. So these are going to be a little different. I'm going to have to just ramp up progression on these. And I'm going to definitely be doing the belt squats both days now, the squat and the deadlift day. So the question becomes, why didn't I do any other rep work on the squatting at this point? Because I feel like I'm getting plenty of axle loading on deadlift day. And I think I'm going to continue to do some volume on conventional deadlifts. I'm going to continue to do that. and we just have to adjust all of our programming accordingly. And that actually resolves a lot of the issues in my training. I'm sitting here going, am I going to get enough grip work? How much am I getting any axial loading to load the torso and get it used to having weight loaded on it to carry over to squats and stuff? All of this stuff is solved by me just doing a little bit of back off volume, some assistance volume on deadlifts after the training max on Fridays. That fixes so many problems in the programming. And that's the thing, when people ask about programming or they'll ask me about an exercise, I'm like, there is no answer to your questions oftentimes, because people are asking about single variables inside of a training program instead of asking, hey, how does this fit into the totality of my training program? Instead of saying, hey, what's a great exercise for this? It should be, what's a great exercise to fill this role and this niche in my training, and to balance everything out with the different elements that I want. And in this case, me worrying about, am I getting enough grip work? Am I getting this? Am I getting that? Well, that's resolved with plugging one exercise different in the week. Okay. So we did those, and then we went to just ab work, and then the quad work that I've been doing for tendons at the end. So I decided to go ahead and do a set of standing crunches. I do want to make sure I'm getting a little more ab work because I'm not doing a lot of axial loading work. It's really outside of the two maxes. It's just whatever deadlift reps I'm doing, unless I throw some good mornings in. So I think the additional core work is a good idea. Now, granted, I get a lot with all of that. I get a lot of core work on the reverse hyperextensions. They do work abdominals and everything. But why this one? I'm glad you asked that. It stretches my hamstrings. I've been dealing with a little bit of hamstring cramping. This stretches the hamstrings, gets blood flow to them, and pulls the hamstring into a stretched or lengthened position dynamically, repeatedly for 100 reps. Will that help with the hamstring cramping as a form of active recovery? I'm doing it for my abdominals, my obliques, and my hip flexors. But is it potentially active recovery for the hamstrings also? The answer is yes. Again, we come over to the question of, instead of asking what's a good exercise, what exercises can we fit in to perform the roles that we need in the totality of our training? In this case, an abdominal exercise can be some active recovery for my hamstrings that have been acting up and cramping this week. Okay? This is how we have to think with our training. This is why I build champions. This is why you guys have seen me put up lifters who squat triple their body weight and stuff. This is the reason I have master's state records in 2 weight classes in the state of Texas. Okay? This is why I deadlift over 600 pounds at age 46. And then we finish up with these leg extensions against bands, primarily to help with my tendons. It helps with the quad tendons, helps with the patellar tendon. All right, and that's how I finished up the workout. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.